Welcome to the Wave with Dave Guthrie from Simply Subarus, and today we have a special guest, Mark from Company23. Say hi, Mark.
Hello.
We're very excited. We've been planning to get Mark on for a while, ever since we talked about starting a podcast about a year ago, and this is finally it. We wanted to do a tools-based episode, something to kind of circle in on Company23 and what they're working on, and then talk a little bit about some tools in the industry, things for Subaru as well. And then we got a special surprise segment at the end for you. So we're going to kick it right off, and we're going to talk to Mark here. Mark, I saw we had put the post up in the group looking for some questions. I know we only got a couple, but the first thing I wanted to ask you was the question somebody asked is that what made you guys want to start Company23, and how did you decide which tools to make and what comes out next?
Yeah, I was a little bummed. Like, I posted that question in the Subaru Mechanics group with a meme, and everybody just laughed emojied at the meme and ignored the post, I think. So we only got one question. So Company23 was founded officially in 2012 by two guys, Chad and Ryan. Chad is my boss, lead engineer. I currently still lead engineer. He works out of his home office in Minneapolis, and then Ryan is the business head of things. So before I jump into all that stuff, Company23 was founded in 2012, and the story I was told goes that Chad and Ryan were working on Chad's EJ207 swapped Aspen white bug-eye wagon. So
God, I love that.
He
awesome.
He had built it. Chad is a huge car guy. He's probably bought and sold more cars than I'll ever own. Fun fact, he's working on a new project that I'm not allowed to say what it is, but you guys will see it if you follow our social media stuff. So I'm not allowed to tell. It's a secret.
Damn.
But yeah. So follow us, Company23. Yeah, so they were working on his bug-eye wagon, and they had purchased at the time, I think it was an OEM manufactured by a company called Kent Moore back in the day. One of the cam gear tools that Kent Moore had made. This is like, I think they purchased like 2011. And at the time, those Kent Moore Subaru OEM factory service manual tools were extremely expensive, as they still are today, and not the easiest thing to get a hold of for the average enthusiast consumer, whatever. So Chad and Ryan had both had previous business experience. So they got the wrench, kind of put it in their hands and said, we can do better than this one. We can be more cost effective. We can be readily available. We can do all these things. So they went through and designed from scratch a whole gamut of tools, like actually a pretty decent segment of the portfolio that we have available today. Launched the company in 2012 and found immediate success because a lot of other people were running into the same problems that they were. So for example, the example that I like to use is that I still have some friends who work in the Subaru dealership network here in the Twin Cities. One of them sent me a TSB from late April this year that Subaru had launched a OEM tool for the FAFB crank pulley. And it was like $1,200. So I don't know if it's made out of gold or platinum or whatever it is, but if you bought our crank pulley tool that works with the FAFB crank pulley and with the cam gears, it's like, if you buy all the sets of pins and the tool, it's like $70-$80. So we are not trying to be the cheapest tool in the book. Like, that's not our goal. We are trying to provide value to our customers at a competitive price point, and still keep the lights on and be able to pay our salaries and everything at a price that we feel is fair, really. Meanwhile, like the OEM stuff, the price is just astronomical. So I'm not really sure how all that dealer stuff works as far as like, do dealers buy the tools that they want, they get shipped to them, or they just get shipped and they get stuck with the bill? But I've heard many different things, but that's a long-winded answer of basically where Company23 came from and kind of what our goal was.
And now, hold
on. Before I jump into that, our goal, I wasn't a part of it at the time. I joined in 2021. So I wasn't part of it. I used the royal we.
Yeah. Now, do you have any Subaru dealers that buy your tools?
A lot.
Yeah, so that I was gonna say.
Again, like, I'm not 100%. I've never worked in a dealership or have like intimate experience or everything, but I know quite a few people just from working how I do. who work in the dealership network. And depending on the tools, I think some of them have like the really big OE cabinets that are just stocked with tools. At least the one closest to my house does. But then a lot of other times I'll get messages, because I also run our social media stuff, from dealership techs who are like, I prefer your stuff to the OE stuff. Like, I have to
Yeah.
buy my own tools. I have to XYZ. So Dave is nodding like I hit the nail on the head, or he agrees with me a little bit. But that seems to be a common thing too. So we do have quite a few dealership techs who will reach out, and we do have like programs for mostly independent Subaru shops too, to try to help them out a little bit on cost. And yeah, we're very supportive of the community as a whole, and independent shops and all that stuff. So
Yeah. It's
Which we
interesting.
appreciate.
Yeah.
That's all we like to do, man.
It's interesting because a lot of things that I've read researching some of these tools is that the OE Subaru specific tools started to become discontinued. You couldn't get them. They were super expensive. And not just that, but the techs found them super bulky and complicated. And like, you guys basically came in and simplified all of these things and tried to make it a little bit easier and more available and cheaper. And I think that, you know, being that I've worked for multiple dealers, the one thing is they like things that work and are cheap. They don't like buying, you know, the expensive stuff if they don't have to. So
Yeah. And I'm,
yeah,
and I mean that.
it's a great option.
Sorry to cut you off, man. I talk a lot.
No, you're good. You're good.
But yeah, you're 100% right. Like, not only is our stuff price competitive, the majority of it also has a lifetime warranty on it. So like, we manufacture stuff that an enthusiast can swallow the pill on cost wise. If you know, you blow up your EJ2 or 257 and want to rebuild your STI in your garage, but then at the same time, if a professional dealership tech buys it, like, I've gotten pictures of some cam gear tools and the crank pulley tool, and it looks like this thing got drugged behind a truck for 50 miles. And they're like, oh yeah, I bought it in like 2013. It's never failed me. It just, you know, like, I've used it as a hammer 6 times and I broke open a door with it and it still works great. I'm like, well, okay. So
yeah, I'm sure. I don't know, Dave, have you ever used your Company23 tools to open up a door? Or...
I don't know that we've opened up a door with them. We've certainly, we're no stranger to doing some unconventional things with our tools here and there.
my wife always
But
jokes
that,
she could use it for self-defense.
Yeah,
of course, of course. You see our wall, a really nice kind of pegboard array of all our Company23 tools, and it's readily available, we always say, for 2 reasons. One of which is we can build your engine really fast, or we can defend ourselves if need be. I always like to laugh to think that
yeah. Mark, is there anything that you've run into dealing with Subaru? Any patents that you needed to use to kind of build off of? Or I know that it gets into kind of a gray area when things start to get discontinued, but you still need them and you need to build off of the original design or take inspiration from things. So is there any hoops that you guys have to jump through normally?
As on a whole, like, no. So I mean, that's kind of a multi-part question. The first thing I'll touch on is, like, I've basically had 0 communication with Subaru. So years ago, before I was part of the company, Chad and Ryan were contracted by Subaru to manufacture relay pliers. So they made these really nice, I don't know if you're nodding like you're familiar with them, but
I've
heard
of something like that before. Yeah,
we made a post about some that's actually not made by you guys, but it's the Kyoto tool version of the relay pliers for the Japanese and Subarus specifically.
So they made these really nice relay pliers, a ton of them, and they were contracted by Subaru. And I don't know if they ended up in the manual or what, but that fizzled out. And I think we still have a bunch of them in stock, actually. We don't sell them, or we don't really know what to do with them. Maybe we should list them and sell them. But basically have had 0 communication with Subaru, with Subaru as a whole.
I'll take a pair.
Yeah, well, shoot me an email. But basically zero communication with mothership Subaru. The only kind of like backdoor communication we've had is with a gentleman who's down in Kansas City named Dan Engstrom, or at Blingstrom on Instagram. So he's like a Subaru field service tech trainer, and I think he's working his way up the ladder. He might be like the trainer to the trainers now. And he'll shoot me pictures quite a bit of like our tools in the factory training center. And there's one guy in Chicago did some tech training and sent me a bunch of our stuff that's in the tech training center. And, it's humbling to see our stuff in the tech training centers. And then at the same time, I share that with my bosses, and they're like, we don't remember Subaru ordering anything, so we're really not sure like how that got there. So,
oh man.
But yeah, so like we see our SEAL tools, like we see quite a few things in tech, like dealership tech training centers, and we really don't have any direct involvement with them though. And one thing I'll also preface, like you mentioned patents and IP and things like that. We do all our own design and engineering in-house. So that's all us. Like that's supposed to be my main day job, is design engineering and, 3D printing and development, fit up and testing. And, we all wear many hats because we are a company of 5 people right now. So
wow.
I get the comment once in a while, like, oh, this big company comes in and does this. I'm like, big company, dude, there's 5 of us. So like, I do the boots on the ground engineering and the social media. Chad is my boss, lead engineer. He keeps me in check. Ryan is the business head. So he's like high level business stuff, business decisions, financials, things like that. His wife, Amanda, is actually like our day-to-day business operations manager. So she does like the day-to-day financials. She actually like ships the orders every day. And then Damon is our shop tech, service tech, who does the building and the welding and the grinding and all that fun stuff. Fun fact, he drives also, people are always curious, like Damon has a 6-speed, a factory 6-speed Subaru Crosstrek. That's super cool.
That's cool.
It still has the NAFB in it though. Yeah, dude, they made like a few of them and he got one, and like it's a cool car. It's super slow, but it's 6-speed, so it's cool.
Dave's so jealous right now.
Oh, so jealous.
So he's got that. Amanda drives a Subaru Ascent. Ryan just sold his BMW to get a 2020 WRX, which, kudos. And then Chad just sold his Focus RS. I can't tell you what's replacing it. I'm not allowed to, but he and his wife also have like a Rivian R2T, R1T, whatever the truck is. And then I have 2 04 STIs because one doesn't work perpetually and the other one does work. So we're all
That's how that works.
Yeah. So a fun story, like I had the Java Black Pearl one that just worked great. It was super reliable, like super easy, like simple setup, made like 320 at the wheels. It never broke. So I bought this platinum silver metallic one that had lifted ahead on a previous owner. It was running a rotated 6266 setup, and I bought it because he was sick of putting money into it. Put it in my garage. I was like, all right, this is a long-term project. I'm going to like slowly work on this. And a couple months later, I broke a ring land in the black one.
Oh, no.
For a while, both didn't work, but the black one is up and going again with a new short block. So all is well. But anyway, where I was going with that was as far as IP and designs and things like that, everything we do is 100% us. So myself and Chad both have corporate engineering experience from previous lives. So we're very intimately familiar with patent strategy and patent law and, all the different kinds of patents and basically how to play the IP game, which that's really what it is just a game. So we do a lot of patenting of our own stuff to protect it from competitors, and it's all strategically done. And so like our Hexit half moons, for example, that have the little hex in them, that's patented in a certain way and it's patent pending right now, but we have played that game more recently.
Well, and I'm curious, not to cut you off there, Mark, but
no,
just
cut me off anytime.
When you, for the people that have, the few people that don't know about the Easter egg, I call it, of your cam and crank holder tools with the hex and the handle behind the grip there.
Yeah.
Cool Easter egg for anyone who doesn't know. I would imagine, and humbly as a shop who supports you guys through and through, we don't have any of the factory Subaru tools that you guys make. Effectively, we have things that you guys don't make yet, but we have everything that you guys do make, and we don't have that in Subaru's comparison. So question would be, is something like that kind of encompassed into kind of that mindset of, okay, if we incorporate this in design into the handle, that's an added feature that the manufacturer is, I would imagine, surely isn't putting that level of oversight into.
Yeah, I do think that's part of it. So I think like the question I think also was like in the comment section was like, how do you guys decide what tools to produce next? Well, we're enthusiasts. Like, I go home from working on Subaru stuff all day, and I'm doom scrolling on Instagram looking at Subarus. So like, to your point, Dave, we put so much thought into everything that we do. It drives me crazy sometimes. But like that half-inch drive under the grips of all our wrenches, like, fun fact, when I joined the company, I didn't know that was there either. So like the first time I posted that on our social media, people like lost their shit, and they were like running. Oh, so I don't know if I'm supposed to swear or not. They're like running to the garage. They're like running to their garage and sending me pictures. They're like, no way, it's here. I'm like, not everyone, man. Like, I didn't put it there. I didn't know it was there either, but it's there. And that's good on everyone since the beginning. But so to answer your question in a very long-winded way, like, we put so much thought into everything, and there's even future-proofing stuff in certain products where it's like, that half-inch drive, for example, like, if somebody ever put a bolt on with the 3/4 inch impact and gave it way too many ugga-duggas and they can't get it off, like, they already have a 20-inch handle. Let's put a breaker bar spot in it just in case, because we've been there. We know what this is like. We don't want anybody else to experience that.
Yeah. One thing I just want to touch on is you mentioned before that some people think that you guys are like a large company, but there's only 5 of you. But I actually think it's not a bad thing that you guys present yourself in a way that people think you're a large company, because it's impressive. It's impressive that you guys keep up with all these orders and the amount of marketing you guys do. And like, honestly, like, I see you in our group all the time and you're in our chat, and I just like, it's amazing at what you guys do every day. I think it's just insane. You guys are on top of everything. So, you know, it's a good look.
We have a pretty awesome team. Like, it's funny because like my previous role was at the 3M company here in St. Paul, and that was 80,000 people. That, I don't want to say it was rare, but like a lot of people just kind of showed up, did their job, and collected a paycheck. And now we work with 5 people who like really, really care. So like, this is Chad and Ryan's baby. It's been their baby now for 13 years. Like, and the small company mentality is like, if I don't get something done or if I'm supposed to do something, no one's going to do it. So
yeah, that's true.
It's really fun to work with a group of people that not only kick ass, but also like really, really, really care what they're doing. So like, on the off chance that we miss ship an order or something doesn't fit or whatever, like, we take care of customers. Like, a lot of times, like, if people have tech questions, they can email on our website and it'll make its way to my desk. Like, that morning it gets forwarded to whoever needs it, and like, I will email that customer back and give them tips and let them know, like, hey, here's what I did last time. I would never do this. I would do this. Buy this. You don't need this. So a lot of times people will email us and they'll be like, I'm rebuilding my STI for the first time. I have no idea what I need. What do I need? And I'll send them a list. I'm like, you absolutely need this, this, and this. This is nice to have, but you don't need it if you're on a budget. And then you absolutely don't need this, but it's super bougie. Maybe you want it anyway. And I'll send them like this long email of all that stuff. And I think people appreciate that, because there are some of our products, like, you can get away with not using, like, if you don't want to, like the half moons, for example. If you don't want billet half moons with a hex in them, more power to you. If you got yours out and they don't break and you want to reuse them, sure. But you know, if you ever need to be back in there, ours are gray. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So is there anything that you guys are working on that we can know about?
No. So like,
trust me, Pat. I've tried to get answers out of them before, and they're tight-lipped over there. They haven't let us on to much of anything.
We're working on some stuff that's been in development for longer than I'd like. I like to rip through them and get them out, but like, a couple projects are launching in the next, knock on wood, month or two that we've put a lot of love into. So we've had at local shops here in the Twin Cities to get feedback on, because when we launch, we want to make sure it's 10 tenths. Like, we're not screwing around with them. It's stuff that we've talked about for a long time. I'm sure you'll be happy when it comes out. And then a new one that's kind of, I don't want to speak to it too much, but one that I'm super excited about. But yeah, so I'm trying to think of another way to answer this gentleman's question in the chat, but like, what tools to produce next? We've had a laundry list of them for a really long time, like tons and tons of stuff, not just like, hey, the factory made a tool for this, but we always kind of, my favorite statement is like the, wouldn't it be cool if? So that's where the half moons came out, where like, I was rebuilding my black STI and I broke the half moons coming out. And I'm like, I hate these stupid half moons. Like, they only had 3,000 miles on them. I just put them in. I hate them. So I posed the question to my boss, because I have weekly check-ins with him, and he's also like former recovering Subaru addict. So he's like, or I asked him like, hey, wouldn't it be cool like if we put a little notch in here so you could just like hit it with a punch? And he's like, that's a good idea. What about this? And then I'm like, that's also a good idea. What about this? And we play like idea ping pong for like 10 minutes. And we settled on the Hex. And we're like, that's a great idea. So we machined them up, tested them out. They work like too good, because RTV or sealant is super strong in tension and super weak in shear. So you turn it and it just pops out, and you're like, oh, okay. So
I love when a good idea. When a good idea comes to fruition like that, it's amazing. I love when
we've dealt with some of the other manufacturers' half moons that are, billet aluminum or whatever, and of course you're kind of still left with the same kind of conundrum to a point. And what we've internalized, our best way to get them out is, to your point, is that shear strength is we effectively have to kind of tap them out. But we don't want to use a punch, because we can damage that sealing surface. So we actually use a brass punch just to try to help mitigate that.
Yeah.
And not damage that surface as much. But the fact that you guys thought that out and put the Hex in there was like, now you don't have to interact with that surface at all.
Yeah.
You don't have to touch it. You don't have to hit it. There's no impact.
Yeah. And the funny thing about that, Dave, is like, it's the amount of work that went into specifying exactly the dimensions of that Hex too. Like, we machined, I think, 3 or 4 different depths of Hex, and then size of Hex. And then like, if you look at them, they're laser engraved on both sides. So if someone's like, I really hate the Hex being on the outside, you can flip it around and you can have the big Company23 logo on the outside. But then at the same token, we were like, okay, well, we have to ensure that there's space for the 8mm Allen wrench or whatever on the inside. So we put it, like, it's all testing I did. So we're like I sealed them all in, and I'm like, I'm getting different 8mm Allen keys, because, they're all different. So to make sure like the length on the L you can get in and not like hit a bucket or hit anything, like, yeah.
Or have to get some weird specialty low pro stuff,
Right. Yeah. So like a standard, like 8mm.
That's a consideration. I've run across that in my profession, not just with Subaru, where you see an engineer, with 2 bolts that are like this, and you're like, how am I supposed to get this out? 2 bolts are facing each other, and you have to kind of gingerly take one out before the other.
Yeah.
And figure out the order of operations.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned.
So you guys have taken that step and done it ahead of time. It kind of thought ahead really goes above and beyond, and we're appreciative of.
Yeah, and like, to jump back to your question on the small company, big company thing, like when I worked in corporate America, if something got screwed up, it was probably like 10 people committee, and if it came back to you, you're like, he did it. Like, not saying that's the right thing to do, but nobody was like directly to blame. So if you remember the V1 engine stand, my bad. So like, that's me. I designed it. I signed off on it. I had people test it. So like, when the first customer emailed us and they're like, hey, it'd be sweet if we could put the turbo on, like, I should have bricked. So I wrote that public apology of like, hey, our bad, like, we'll refund you $100, like, we'll do all this stuff, and we're working on V2. So like, I had spent months on that thing. I had taken it to local shops here in the Twin Cities, gotten all this feedback the whole time. If you're not familiar with the V1 engine stand, for the listeners, it was a great engine stand. We're great, but didn't fit stock turbo. Wasn't quite enough room for clutch alignment tools. It just kind of left a little bit on the table. So I wrote a public apology on our social media, and like I had nowhere to hide. Like I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm quitting. I'm going back to corporate America. Like I hate this. But basically went completely back to the drawing board and started over. And our V2 engine stand, the one that's available now, is like, it's so badass. I have 2 of them right here. They're so cool. Like it's fun to look at them and be like, I had to take it on the chin, but it was kind of worth it. So
Yeah, and I know everyone appreciates when you take something and you make it, and if it's not right, you turn around and you make it even more badass and you put it back out, because that's how you get the best possible thing. Is you see where the problems are at. Everybody says, hey, you need to make this change or that change, and then boom, you end up with the greatest thing ever. So it's all part of the process. Don't worry about it.
And agreeing with you, Mark, that unbeknownst to you guys, professionally having a great appearance of a seemingly larger company, that smaller company really shines through in moments like that, where the community sees the face value of you personally as well as the company, and like you said, that's kind of where it is, versus there is less accountability. Oh, there was 200 people on this project. We screwed up as a company, versus you came out and were like, yeah, this is my oversight. I should have caught this, what have you. And you hung your head to the community, and I like to believe the community spoke with their votes, and you guys are still thriving, hopefully very well, alive and well, because of that type of mentality.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think it, like, tougher pill to swallow, short term, better long term kind of thing. Definitely learned a lot, like just in terms of design, and like now, I don't want to say we didn't do it before, but now myself even more, I'm like, okay, like we figured out the right way to do something. Let's think of 50 other ways that maybe are not the right way to do things, but are close enough that someone might do it, and then try them all, make sure that we're good. So yeah. So we put a lot of thought, a lot of effort, just a ton of stuff into everything that we do. So, I mean, I would love to be launching a new product like every day, but it's not feasible with the amount of effort and time and manpower that we put into everything. So, but with that being said, like, no, like I like to launch stuff and then never think about it again. Just look at, sales coming in. But like that is a good point though. Like we do our best to launch something that's completely polished and good, and that if you buy one, we are not wondering if it's going to work. You are not wondering if it's going to work. You buy it, you use it, you're happy. You don't have buyer's remorse. Like you feel like you've got a good value for your money. So yeah, we hang our hat on that a lot. So we are very prideful, or prideful, I don't know if that's the right word, but like proud of our reputation in the community. Like we do our best. Like we're 5 normal people. Like we're not superheroes. Maybe a couple of us are, but like we're just normal people doing the best we can. So stuff happens sometimes, and I think it's more important like how you react to it than that it happens. So we're always trying to do the best we can. So yeah, I don't know. It's fun. I love what I do. I'm super, like, I told this story the other day, but like I just had a meeting with a financial advisor, and he's asking me like when I'm going to retire. And I kind of looked at him like, do I have to? And he got all confused. I'm like, dude, I love what I do. Like if I hit the lottery, I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like I'll probably spend more time with my wife and kid, but still going to like make stuff. I love it. I don't know. And my car makes whooshy noises. So
engineering's in the blood, they say. So
dude, it is.
I hear you.
It really is. But yeah,
it's really cool that you guys are around. And for anybody who doesn't know, in our group, Mark was the guy who pushed for sponsorships in the group, and he pushed and the problem is we have a group of people who work within the group that they are very much purists. They want it to be diagnosis. They want people to get their answers, and so we wanted there to be benefit for the group. So actually both of these guys sitting here are both sponsors of the group. They both offer, discounts and stuff to help out people in the group. And it's been amazing ever since. We have a huge group of sponsors. We got to go to Boxer Fest for the first time this past year. And a bunch of our sponsors came out there. We got to hang out with them. And Just talking with you now, it's amazing to see what you guys do for the community, and Dave as well. It's really, even you talking about the engine stand, you make something and that the community needs something better, and you go out and you make it. Those are the kind of things that Subaru stands behind. So we love that here. So I want to try to move along a little bit here. One thing, Mark, I do want to get your take on. I don't know if you listened to a previous podcast about Dave's Baja and the canola oil topic, but Dave and I found out that back in World War II, boat engines used to run on canola oil. And so we have challenged Dave to put canola oil in his Baja and see if he can make it 3,000 miles. Now, I want to see what you think of that and how far you think he's going to make it.
I mean, what does it have to just move at 3,000 miles? Like what are the constraints here? Like, does it just have to like move?
We found out that you can get canola oil in either 0.20 or 10.30, I think, or no, 10.20, some weird weight, but you can get canola oil in a weight that would go into a Subaru. It's just that it's not petroleum based. So basically Dave's going to put it in the Baja and see if he can make it 3,000 miles to the next oil change. We don't know how it's going to go, but we are following this because I need to know for science. So,
naturally aspirated or turbo?
For record sense, it's a 2004 Baja non-turbo 2.5. Locally here in, let's call it the land of milk and honey of Colorado. I know a couple people locally who are aware of this, let's call it the project, who have a replacement engine with about the same, if not less, mileage for about $500. So not the biggest gamble in the world, so to speak. I think it has about 180,000 miles on the engine right now, so it's not low miles. And we just figure, okay, if we can run it for 3,000 miles, now we're not cross-country road tripping it either. We use it around town to pick up parts and things like that, and engines and stuff. But we figure if we can run 3,000 miles on it without it blowing up, and when I say blowing up, like engine seized, like doesn't turn over, like at the end of 3,000 miles, we're going to switch it back to regular oil, and we'll obviously follow it too, for a time being after that point. Well, I'm curious to see if it'll make another oil change after that. That'll kind of be the telltale, but I'm curious to see if it'll make 3,000. I think it will. A Subaru 2.5 non-turbo, I think could make it 3,000 miles without blowing up.
I'm gonna agree. I think it'll make it. I don't know why. I have no canola oil experience. I think it's gonna make it. I don't know why, but
I think it'll make it.
Even if it doesn't, just for fun, you should send a sample of it to Blackstone and see if they just like freak out on you.
I didn't think about that. I'm gonna do that. Dude. I'm not gonna tell them. I'm not gonna tell them what oil it is, though. I'm just gonna give them the make and model and just say nothing, and just see what their lab reports back says.
Even better. You bring it to the dealer and you say it stopped working. I don't know why.
Oh God. I don't know why. I would put $5 on it, making it 3,000 miles. I don't know why. All
right. I'm with it, making it too. I think it'll make 3,000. And again, not 3,000 hard miles. I'm not saying drive it cross country. I'm just saying on one stretch, because that's the other thing, if you let that get hot enough for long enough, we're around town. I'd say the maximum amount of miles that we're putting on this thing in a single use caseage is maybe 50 miles.
Yeah.
So
I think it makes it.
It'll take us a while to get 3,000.
Yeah.
But this will, as Pat and I discussed, I think this will be a good ongoing continuum. And I'll report back every other podcast or so about how many miles we have on it. But we're actually, I have to double check. I think we're about 200 miles or so due for our next oil change. So I think we might be doing it here very soon. It doesn't matter if we do it early. We might just be switching it over here in the next week. So we'll be sure to make a post to the group about it when we
dude, I can't wait for the comments
change it
on
over.
that.
We're gonna
I know.
make a whole video of changing it over. I already got big gallon jugs of canola oil, so we're gonna be pouring that in with funnels.
Dave sent me a picture the other night of the jugs of canola oil, and I started dying laughing.
Oh my god.
We're going with Crisco brand. If anyone wants to know which brand we're using, we thought about Motul, but Motul unfortunately doesn't make canola oil.
That's awesome.
So we're gonna go with Crisco for this one.
I did a lot of research trying to find the original canola oil that they put in the warships, and I could not find the brand name. I tried.
Me neither.
So, you know,
I spent about 3 hours the other night, Pat, trying to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my prediction is it makes it 3,000 miles. It may or may not be happy at 3,000 miles.
Yeah, we'll have to find out.
Like, you're gonna make it 3,000 miles and be like, "Hey, we made it," and then change the oil. And it's gonna like spin a rod bearing like 500 miles,
and
later.
it'll blow up right afterwards.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I told him
that's a fair. I'm equally humbly, let's say, not to say I don't think it can do it, but I'm pessimistically agreeing with you, Mark, that I think it won't like it. But at the end of the day, like I said, we have a lot of great local resources and colleagues that are similarly kind of invested in this experiment, if you will, that have humbly offered up $500 engines replacements that we can just drop in there in a couple hours. So we're not super worried about it from a big standpoint, though. You know, it's not like we would never do this to a customer's car, obviously.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that just wants to see the video of it start up the first time at idle. I just want to hear what it sounds like. Yeah.
I'm curious to smell the exhaust, because it's kind of, I wonder if it's going to be a similar effect to when people are running their cars off of vegetable oil, you know, for gas. If the exhaust will smell slightly of oil, I don't know, of canola oil, I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll have to experiment with that.
I bet it will. I think your saving grace is that it's an NA car. I think a turbo car would cook it. That's my opinion.
I agree. I don't think a turbo would handle it. Yeah. But we're gonna go for all of 3,000. We're gonna log it. We're gonna stamp the mileage and everything before and after. So we're gonna go all of 3,000 miles with it.
Can we
we'll
do something can we do like a giveaway or something in the group, or like post your prediction on mileage, and like if it blows at the mileage that you said, like up to 3,000, we'll give you like a bottle of beer and a shirt.
I like that. I like that. We should do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We should absolutely do that. We'll talk about that. There's a really good idea there.
Yeah. By the way, those Company23 bottle openers are amazing. I love those. So.
Dude, if I to go back to overthinking things, like if I had $1 for every time, like how many revisions of that thing we made? Oh my god, that was probably in development for like 5 months. Like, it wasn't my primary focus, but like I would revise it and change it, and I had it perfect so it works both upside and downside, or upside down and right side up. That was a lot of time in that one.
Dude, when we went to Boxer Fest and I laid out all the sponsorship stuff on the table, that was the first thing everybody grabbed was the bottle openers. I was like, oh man. I was hoping to take one of these home, but it's like, dang.
So the only thing we screwed up on that, like after we launched it, because you know how the big wrenches have the 1/2-inch drive in them. Once one of our customers like sent us an email, was like, "Hey, does a bottle opener have a 1/4-inch drive in it?" And I was like, "Oh, that was a great idea." No, it doesn't. Like, dang it.
Or I don't know if there's enough room in the handle. Maybe you put a 10 mil under there.
Ooh, do that too. That'd be kind of handy.
Everyone needs a 10 mil.
That's right. Yeah.
Mark's like Santa. He just reaches in his coat. He's like, I'm in this pocket. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to get your prediction on that. But talking about patents, something that Dave and I stumbled across, we were talking about it last time, was the Milwaukee patents on lithium-ion batteries. Something I had no idea about until he brought it up to me, is that Milwaukee actually has patents on anything that is 20 amps equal to or above. So I know that Dave's done a little bit of research on this, and I went through some of it as well. So we just want to talk about that a little bit. I know with you, we were talking about patents and kind of where this all leads. And this is why it's so important to get a patent or copyrights on your products, because they basically took just the size of the battery and they have the market on it, which is insane. Dave, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit on that.
Yeah, what I didn't realize was when I uncovered this, or discovered this, I should say, not uncovered, sorry, wrong word, discovered this, it blew me away to realize that huge, massive companies who you consider, or rather are competitors of Milwaukee, actually pay Milwaukee annual royalties. So DeWalt, every DeWalt battery that they sell, they pay money to DeWalt, or to Milwaukee. And the reason I was made aware of this initially was I saw something in the headlines about Snap-on engage in a little legal litigation with Milwaukee. And it turned out that, unfortunately, Snap-on lost, and they had to pay somewhere in the realm of $1.8 billion to Milwaukee Corporation for copyright infringement for selling batteries that infringed on Milwaukee's copyright. And they lost that suit, and they actually had to pay Milwaukee money. And so, like, in certain instances, I think patents are great, like Pat said, to kind of protect intellectual property. But there are certainly instances where it can be stifling, to innovation in terms of other competition on a certain level.
Yeah, patents are rabbit hole. So I agree with you that it stifles innovation on a short-term basis, because it does. But the entire draw of a utility patent for both the government and the company is that it furthers innovation in the future. So what I mean by that is like a utility patent, for example, like the one on the Milwaukee battery that I just pulled up on my other screen and I'm looking at. A utility patent means that you are formally like announcing, this is how I do this. This is how anyone could do it. You are teaching the public basically how to do what you're patenting. And then in exchange for that, you have the, exclusive rights to it for the next 20 years. So for example, like Milwaukee has utility patents on these batteries, for example, for 20 years. So they expire like in a couple of years, actually. It looks like 2029 they'll expire. Well, the first one. But then after that, anybody who wants to manufacture a lithium ion battery of any voltage basically can just look at how they did it, copy paste, do it themselves, and away they go. The entire market benefits from that. But yeah, it's amazing what games you can play with patents. So like, for example, there's two different kinds of patents, design and utility. And the one that everybody likes to quote is the design patent of, I think it was Samsung and iPhone. So like when iPhone 3G came out, a design patent just basically designs, the thing, right? So like the actual case of it, and Samsung's was too close to that. So therefore they lost the patent, had to pay a bunch of money and all that stuff. But I think utility patents are kind of a different beast, because if you read through this, there's all kinds of data and how they do this, layouts for this, all that stuff. So, I mean, you're kind of trading your history, your experience, how you do things for that protection. But to give you a different example, there are things called trade secrets. So like, for example, Nespresso pods, the way that they spin them and the way they extract the coffee is a trade secret to Nespresso. So Nespresso is saying, we don't want to teach anybody how to do this ever because we think it's super difficult to do. So we're just not going to patent it. We're not going to tell anybody what to do with it. We're going to keep it a secret. And there's probably a core group of people who work at Nestle who know how to do it. The flip side of that is that if anybody can go through and reverse engineer and figure it out, they're free to do whatever they want. They can launch it tomorrow. So it's a different game to play. But I'm not going to read it right now because it would take me a few minutes, but I'm a super nerd when it comes to patents, because I'm a firm believer that if you're creative and you know what you're doing, you can basically, unless you have a really, really, really good patent lawyer who is granted extremely broad claims, there's usually ways around things, circumventing you're close enough, or you just pay licensing fees to the patent holder, which is just a whole other part of the game. But I'm sure that Milwaukee has made a decent amount of money off just having these patents. So, like when I worked in corporate America, for example, there are people in the world that they make their living just off proving out a concept and getting a patent on it. So these people go through, they test something small scale, they're granted a patent, they wait until the patent actually publishes, and then they'll contact corporations and say, hey, do you want to license my technology? And sometimes they say, yeah, because, you have a broad patent on it. We'll review it with lawyers, whatever. And then they just license it from them. They get a jump start to make the thing. And the guy who invented it or the woman who invented it, they get a nice check. So it's all a huge game. But I mean, for example, like the people that license this Milwaukee patent on batteries, they're probably stoked on it because the cost of developing something from scratch is huge, like time, salary, equipment, whatever. If I wanted to do a lithium ion battery, I basically have a recipe how to do it from Milwaukee. So shouldn't they be rewarded for their efforts and patenting it and sharing it with the public? So, I mean, half a dozen of one.
That's a valid point.
Of another, whatever.
I guess. Well, the only I guess where my derivative was coming from is, okay, if let's say Milwaukee has the only rights to this, that dissuades anyone else from wanting to develop any technology in that space because they're going to obviously have to pay royalties. Well, then now Milwaukee is responsible for innovating solely, that next level of tools. So conversely, I mean, weird example, I saw Makita or somebody made a microwave that you can run on, like drill batteries from their, like 3 Makita drill batteries can run a microwave at your job site now. Well, if Milwaukee didn't want to make that, well, then if Makita didn't come along and think, well, someone wants a battery-powered microwave on the job site, they can microwave their burrito. We're going to innovate and do something outside the, what Milwaukee thinks is needed, let's say.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate again, Dave, because I love just debating. I love this. This is great. So
sure, no, I appreciate it.
So Milwaukee patented lithium ion battery technology, right? So like theirs is exclusively on lithium ion. If somebody comes out tomorrow and invents a nuclear battery or whatever, for example, like a new battery technology, and everyone moves to that right away, no one gives a crap about Milwaukee anymore. So they have a lot of eggs in that basket, and battery technology is evolving so quickly right now. So like an example I can use. So I'm originally from Western New York. I went to RIT, Rochester, New York. Used to be home to Kodak or Eastman Kodak, right? So they did basically the exact same thing, but with film. So they were making money hand over fist with film for cameras. They had digital camera technology like developed and ready to go. And they said, no, we're not going to launch that because we're printing money with this or printing money with the lithium battery. Well, other companies figured out digital, launched it. Kodak is like not in business anymore. Kodak went from like billions and billions and billions of dollars to a skeleton crew is left. So I agree with you that like the lithium ion is, that's a very broad patent with very broad claims, I'm sure, but like that's a lot of eggs in a basket. So if I'm Milwaukee, I have a team of people like trying to work on what's next, because if somebody comes through and invalidates that patent or comes out with, I don't know, whatever, fairy dust batteries tomorrow, Milwaukee's like could be done. If a big portion of their revenue is off 1 or 2 or 3 patents, that's brave. So I don't know. It's
a good point. Very good point. No, and I appreciate the different perspectives, you know what I mean, to the equation. And I saw it from one kind of directive, and it wasn't to say I indemnified Milwaukee. I just thought it was kind of a, what I saw, at least in any article or any, news report can be askew to a point, was kind of commenting to, well, back in the early days, we all remember the NiCad batteries that you're, in those terrible drills that lasted about 2 minutes, and they took 4 hours to recharge, and they didn't have any torque, and they were terrible. And it's funny, in the automotive industry, we saw that when everyone went from pneumatic to electric. And I was one of the early adopters of that, being for my generation. I remember getting made fun of by the old guys. Yeah, your battery powered impact doesn't have enough torque. Take this lug nut off.
Right.
And sure enough, I'll be damned. It did, and it's gotten even better now, of course. To where now I have, one of the newer impacts that they have. It has 1,400 foot-pounds of breakaway torque. We pretty much use that exclusively for one thing. Whenever we have a cross-threaded stud and a nut that we can't get off, and we used to get a breaker bar and have to break it off manually. Now we put that thing on there and
it's probably that
comes right off.
And cam gears, right?
Yeah. It works great on cam gears.
Yeah. So to jump back to your point, like if I'm Makita or if I'm DeWalt or I'm another big tool manufacturer, I'm investing so heavy in next gen battery technology, and I'm gonna bury Milwaukee. But that's just me.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I really like that, Mark. That's a different perspective that humbly I'd never really considered.
You know what I do,
having no experience with the patent world like you do, though, and that's enlightening.
Yeah. You know what I like is that I was just gonna say some of these companies invested in the lesser voltage batteries. Like Milwaukee, they had everything from 20 volts up, but like you look at Ryobi, they only need an 18-volt battery to run a vacuum or to do a little hand drill. Like, they made their whole business on, hey, you don't need a massive battery. You could just put a tiny little thing in and do the thing you need, and then you're done. So, there's people that always try to avoid these patents and get away with it. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. And I think when you get to some of the smaller companies, they kind of realize who the big fish is, and they won't bother going up against them and maybe the biggest market. So like Ryobi, for example, could have been like, we need a 6-volt pistol grip thing that you can just, run stuff in with, and then you're going to tighten it with something else, not for breakaway torque or whatever. And they might be like, oh, Milwaukee's not playing in that segment. That's an opportunity for us, because if they went after Milwaukee, they know that they can't compete with their brand or their product or whatever. So like companies very often will make the decision of like, we'll go play over here because we're scared of the big kid, for example. So
and now all the revenue is theirs internally, as opposed to DeWalt, who has to pay a percentage of their revenue to Milwaukee.
For sure.
So they're saying we're not even going to step into that ring.
Right.
We're just going to take it all, even though we're going to get a smaller share, market share. We get it all, though.
Yeah, and they might be happy with that, and that works for them. And Milwaukee's this big corporation, and like there's room for everybody. I feel like, if you can innovate
exactly,
and you can differentiate yourself from people, and find your niche. Like us, for example, like when I left corporate America, all my coworkers are like, because I started doing this full time about a year ago. Before that, I was nights and weekends and side gig kind of thing. But people are like, where are you going to work now? I'm like, Company23, and they're like, where? I'm like, Company23, and they're like, never heard of it. I'm like, I know. Like, what do you do? We make Subaru tools. And they were like, there's a company for that? And I'm like, you're obviously not the target person. So not going to bother explaining Subaru. It to you.
I hate whenever I mention a Subaru thing that I'm doing and people are like, there's people that are interested in that. I'm like, you have no idea. Like, you don't know. It's like, they're like, how could you build a whole business on selling tools just for Subaru? And you're like, you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
It's like,
yep.
But
because I don't remember what Subaru's sales figures are, but they sell a ton of cars.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. I thought that was a cool topic that we came across. I know you don't have a whole ton of time left, so I'm gonna dive into our last topic here.
15 minutes. I got 15 minutes, and I gotta go pick up my kid.
So here's what we'll do. I'm gonna read off what I found and kind of dive into this a little bit, and then whenever you got a roll, you can pop out. All right. So, Dave, I told you a lot about this week, that I have been not sleeping for like 2 weeks because I have been researching this like to the depths of my soul, and I have like literally been joining secret project websites out of like UK and stuff because I just got so deep in the Subaru rabbit hole on this. Jalopnik put out a article that was on Subaru, and how Subaru had only 6 stars, but the Pleiades constellation for Subaru is actually made of 7 stars. And they were asking, where did the 7th star go? Because in this article, basically, it says that there is a 7th star. It's so close to one of them that you can't see it. And essentially what they came out to is that they proved there is a 7th star, but there's nothing involved with that. Well, I'm here to say there could have been. So basically what I found on this, and where I landed on this whole thing, is that back when, this is back before Subaru, before Fuji Heavy Industries, we're talking like aviation level aerospace kind of things. There was a company, much like Company23, a small precision industries company called Kogane Sekai. I don't know if you've ever heard of that company before. So Kogane Sekai was a small company that made airplane parts, precision camshafts, things like that, heads for engines and things. Well, what ended up happening is they worked for the essentially the enemy of Subaru. They worked for Tachigawa Aerospace, and Fuji Heavy Industries came from Nakajima Aircraft. Well, this all becomes relevant because Kogane Sekai, after the war ended, and essentially they call it SCOGS, but it's called like the official affiliates or something. They disbanded out of these warplane companies. And those companies basically formed into things like Fuji Heavy Industries. They all split up and went into different sectors. What I found is that Kogane kind of got left out of the loop. They were making parts for these companies and they had no home after this. There was about 10 years where they kind of were like off on their own, trying to figure out where their next move was and what they were going to do. Well, they could have, in my opinion, joined Fuji Heavy Industries and became the 7th star of Subaru. And the reason why this is relevant is that in 1989, Subaru joined F1. I don't know if either of you have ever heard of this.
That 12-cylinder?
Subaru created a 12-cylinder engine. They had no hand in it. They used an outside company, Motori Moderni, which was an Italian firm. They made a flat 12, 3.5-liter engine. It was one of the biggest black marks on Subaru's history because when they realized that
it never worked.
Never worked. They could never place in any of their qualifying races, and they ended up pulling out of F1 mid-season and totally erased their name from everything. Now, the reason that this is all relevant is that Kogane Sekai found their place 10 years after 1943 in Honda. And then after they wound up with Honda, the lead guy for Tachigawa Aerospace, which they used to work with, went to go work at Toyota, and he's actually in the Hall of Fame for making the Toyota Camry and like a bunch of other Toyota cars that are like legendary. So Kogane Sekai got into F1 in 1994. They started making F1 parts for Mercedes-Benz and actually led to them winning a cup. And then also they started helping out other F1 teams like Audi, or I believe there was a couple other teams that they listed. So basically, Mercedes-Benz partnership with McLaren, they dominated F1, beginning major wins in 1997 with the help of this company, Kogane Sekai, that's out of Japan, just a small, engine company. And what's crazy is that if Kogane Sekai decided when Fuji Heavy Industries was being created that they wanted to join them, Subaru could have used them to make a Japanese F1 engine that could have potentially won races and kept Subaru in F1 all the way back from the 80s. And so because of either pride or because they started working with Honda and Toyota and Mercedes, because whatever it was, being it's because they worked for a competing aerospace company, Tachigawa, that didn't get along with Nakajima, and they were just, separate companies. whatever it was, for 10 years when they were off on their own and they could have joined, they decided not to. And they decided to stick as a small company making precision stuff, basically helping all these other car companies. And what that led to is that Subaru ended up going to an Italian company for an engine. And I feel like it's crazy in my brain that this could have happened. Subaru could have been a leading competitor in F1 with a Japanese made engine from this company, and they could have had a 7th star. The parodies would have been complete. It would have all made sense. And they're just the one that got away. It's crazy. I went so deep in this, and I was just trying to figure out how all of this came together. And I was like looking so hard to find if they were ever given an offer by Fuji Heavy Industries to join them. And I couldn't find an exact document leading to it, but all these forums were hinting at the fact that essentially they were offered a spot at Fuji Heavy Industries and they never took it. They said no and they walked away. And so this just like blew my whole brain when I was reading this and just went down this hole. So, Jalopnik, they just said that there was never a star, but I believe that this is it. This is the 7th star. It never ended up happening, and I'm so mad about it because it changes all of history, all based on like things that happened back in the 40s. So,
and you really went down a rabbit hole on that one,
dude.
That's awesome.
I was reading about Subaru diesel engines and when Subaru tried rotary, and I was like all the way back, and then I hit this company and I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the one. They did it. They were the ones that could have made this happen, and they did it. And I'm so mad about it. So I don't know what your take is on that, but that was for me a big piece of the history that I didn't know. I didn't even know that there was a 7th star and that they had never, attributed a company to it. And that, apparently some people feel like it's missing from the history, but I believe that I have found the missing link, and it's just hiding. It's hiding out there. So
my takeaway from
that's my
that whole
piece.
story was I wish there was a running video of that flat 12.
Dude,
I know. And
I've never
I've looked. I haven't
never
found
seen
anything.
one.
I'm aware of the flat 12, and I've looked through the history books, and there isn't anything on record really.
I always see the same picture doing the circulations around the internet, and it's like ITBs, like it looks cool. It looks like an EJ with 12 cylinders.
Yeah.
Looks really long.
Yeah, it's really long. It's really big.
What I like is that when I do use like AI to generate photos and like try to figure out like I like to say, hey, this is what is found in the forums and this is what people describe it as. Can you show me what this would look like? And like this is one of the images that it created. Is it has the Motoru Moderni with the Subaru badge on it.
Oh,
and,
that's not a real photo?
Let me see.
If you Google Subaru flat 12, that's one of the pictures that comes up.
Actually,
F1.
Yep, this is it. This is a picture of it. Yep, this is the website, and it shows the car that Subaru had with their logo on it. Yeah, that is it. Yep.
Like I wish there was a video
Crazy
of that
looking
thing running.
Yeah,
I've never seen.
I want to hear it.
Right. Yeah, I just want to hear it.
It's crazy because it was 200 horsepower less than all of the cars that were running in F1 at the time. Like that's how underpowered it was. And again, like if this company, if not even that, when they were designing or choosing to go into F1, they could have, right, called up Kogane and said, hey, you guys are making F1 parts for Mercedes and whatever. We used to be brothers. What happened? And they could have said, we need to make an engine. Let's do it. And they did it.
Let's squash the beef.
Dude, and not just that, they could still do it. Kogane Sekai is still in business, right? Tachigawa turned into, they're allowed to work at Toyota and whatever. Like, these companies are still around, and it's like I just feel like it's just this missing piece of history, and I'm so upset about it. I just want to see it come through.
Fun fact, if you Google it, it's number 2 on an article titled "The 10 Worst Engines in F1 History."
I believe it. I believe it. So you know what?
Well, and sometimes, as you talked about earlier on, Mark, not to come full circle, bring it back, but sometimes your first idea in your iteration isn't always the best.
It's not supposed to be.
And you have to go back and redesign things.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. Like, you look at like Red Bull, for example. How many times did they just get absolutely demolished? Or McLaren right now, for example, they got last place for a lot of years, and you just keep going. Like, I mean, not to get all philosophical on you, but it's like you have to be horrible at something long enough to figure out how to be good.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to keep going. Like, you look at all these YouTube guys that have come a long way, and you go back to like when they started in 17 and 18, and they're, painting with a broad brush is horrible. But now, they have these castles and stuff, and they just kept going.
Yep.
So it's like Subaru took one shot at F1, didn't succeed right away, and bailed. It's like coulda, shoulda, woulda.
You know what though? It's all a pride thing, I think. They already had a good thing. They tried to get involved in F1 racing, and they said, you know what, this isn't for us. This is outside of what we know how to deal with. We trusted an Italian company because this is what they do, and they couldn't make it work. But if they would have invested the money and made their own flat engine, and they would have put the work in, and maybe even called a company that was doing this stuff, they could have made something badass. And it's a shame because we're just never gonna know unless they do come back into it. A lot of companies are coming back in F1 now, so you just never know. But
you know what's crazy though? Like, having been on like the corporate side of things, and the company that I worked for was a big sponsor of NASCAR for a while. A lot of those deals, when it comes down to an OE trying to get into racing or sponsorship deals, comes back to like the higher ups at said company are like fans of the sport. Like, a lot of times that's what it ends up being. So for all we know, like, Subaru's CEO at the time was super big on F1 and started pushing into this, and then he retired. And the new CEO just looked at everything as a line item on an Excel sheet and was like, well, we can save $10 million if we get rid of this F1 thing. Like, that happens a lot. So a lot of times at big companies, it's just a big swinging pendulum. So one guy or one leader is in F1, we're going to spend money. Next guy or next person comes in, nah, we're not. And then it just goes back and forth. Just like Honda and Red Bull, and then Ford and Red Bull and all that stuff.
Look at Toyota with Gazoo.
Yep. Now they're sponsoring Haas again.
That was an underground skunk works, and the CEO raced under an alias.
Yeah, right. Like, that's awesome.
He didn't want people to know what he was doing.
Like, that's awesome. So cool. And now, like, GR everything is coming out.
They call it Gazoo Racing. No one's gonna know it's Toyota.
Yep. And now they're marketing it. They're like, yeah, we got GR Corolla and GR this, GR that. It's
Gazoo Racing. Let's go.
That's wild.
Well, Mark, I know you got to run.
I do. Yep.
We really appreciate you being here today. This was awesome. I love having these conversations, and yeah, dude, we're super excited to keep working with you, to keep seeing what you put out. We're super excited to rep you guys this year again at Boxer Fest, and hopefully I eventually get to meet you in person. So
yeah, man,
we have to make that happen.
Yeah, we're gonna try to be better at going to some shows this year. I don't think we'll have booths set up, just because, I mean, honestly, we just don't have the manpower to make it happen, like, in the short timeline. But we're working on a couple things, and yeah, I can't speak to stuff. I'm not allowed to. I'm sworn to secrecy. But keep an eye on our social media for new products coming soon, and a new project coming to my boss's house that we're gonna try to feature on our social media more. But yeah. I'm not allowed to say anything, so I'm going to stop talking because I usually spoil the secret. So,
well, keep us posted, because we're planning on doing the same and getting out to some more events this year as well, Mark. So let us know on the back end, if you will.
Yeah.
Where you guys think you might end up this year, because we'd equally like to make an appearance to come out and see you guys as well.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And there's a chance we'll be at Wicked Big Meat walking around in a couple weeks, but we haven't booked anything yet. So Dave, I don't know if you're going out to
New England or whatever, but Patrick's a little closer.
No plans formally, but hey, we'll see if we can. There's gonna be a time where we get a time and a place where we get the three of us together and hang out.
For sure, that would be awesome. So
yeah, man. Well, we appreciate you. We're gonna keep you guys updated on the Baja and the canola oil situation.
yes, dude,
And
please.
Yes.
And you know, for every week I want to try to bring up some kind of like X-Files black tape kind of Subaru topic and talk about some things that either never became a thing or things that have only been whispered about in the industry, and just kind of uncover some things.